Most Filipinos don't prepare for retirement. And it could be for different reasons. Maybe we think that we have all the time in the world, or we think that I'm not wealthy. I don't have enough money to prepare for retirement. But in this video, I want to share with you a strategy that my wife and I have been using for about 5 years now. And it's allowed us to semi retire at the age of 35 years old and puts us on track to retire as early as 55 years old or even earlier if all things go well. And so this is going to be a breakdown. Hopefully, after watching this video, you're going to have a smarter path towards full retirement in your golden years so that your golden years can actually be filled with financial peace and a life just filled with so many good things. And so this is actually a follow-up video to something that I recorded a couple of weeks back. I made a video about how we have used our strategy for retirement, and it got a lot of really good feedback, and a lot of friends, a lot of people who I also just met through that video told us that they definitely want to learn more about retirement, uh, financial independence, and having the right strategies that will give you financial peace as early as today and until the later days of your life as well. And so, in old fashion, I'm gonna be sharing some slides and sharing you with you also some principles, some ideas, and also some numbers, hopefully, that will help clarify what this path is and how we can make this work moving forward. All right, so let's jump straight in. The smarter path to retirement for Filipinos: how to retire with peace of mind. Let's start with a very important question that we need to ask ourselves. Why should I care about retirement? And this is a question that you might have asked. Maybe you were talking to a financial advisor, you were talking to a friend or a family member who was asking you about your retirement plans. And this is probably the question that I hear a lot when people talk about retirement. Why should I even care? Is it even possible for me? Retirement planning often feels out of reach for a lot of Filipinos. But the secret is actually two things. Number one, when you start, and how you let your time work for you. And I'm going to explain all of that and more in the rest of this video. So I hope that you watch until the very end. So let's look at two very different futures. The first future is if you don't plan for your retirement. And the second one is if you start early. So two very extreme scenarios. One, don't plan at all, never cross your mind. And second is if you start early, ideally somewhere in your 30s or even probably in your mid 20s if it's possible. Um, but we'll get into the specifics later on. So what does it look like if you don't plan? If you don't plan for retirement, these are the couple of things that could happen. Number one is you will delay your action. So you keep on postponing, thinking that there's plenty of time ahead, and procrastination isn't that always the enemy of any progress whatsoever in our life, whether it's productivity, finances, whatever it might be. Secondly, is you actually start to see a growing burden because by your 50s, catching up becomes exponentially harder. And I'm actually going to break down the numbers a little bit to show you that if you prepare a bit later in life, that it's going to be a whole lot harder for you to prepare for a financial future where you won't be a burden to your family, which kind of leads to the third important realization and scenario if you don't plan for retirement, which is it can cause family strain. And personally, this is one thing that really drove me to prepare as early as possible because there should be a fear of becoming a financial burden to your children. I know for a fact that in the Philippines, it's quite common for us to think that your retirement plan, if all else fails, will be your children. And so there are a lot of people in this generation and many generations even before this that were breadwinners to their extended or their immediate family. And in many cases, a lot of people, and I've seen this in the lives of many of my friends as well, who are my age and a bit later as well, where as right now, while they're raising their own families, having their own children, they're with their own partners, their own spouses, now they're caught between having to provide for their household and also having to provide for their parents as well. And it even just extends a whole lot more when both the husband and the wife have aging parents, and now they have to take care of three households. And that happens when we don't prepare as soon as we can. But if we do prepare, then there is just a very different picture. Number one is there's more peace of mind because your future is secured and it reduces your daily financial stress. Secondly, is family support is just a whole lot different. There's freedom to care for aging parents without having to sacrifice your future. And this is something that we're starting to see now in our own experience as well, where we're coming to a point where our parents are aging, and we're already talking about, okay, how are we going to take care of our parents when the time comes that they will also retire? And now that will no longer be a burden for us because we can freely give that because we have already prepared as early as possible. And lastly, and this is another thing that I really love as well, is it gives you career freedom. You can make intentional choices based on passion, not fear. In the past couple of months here and almost a year now, I've been kind of like dabbling into coaching and making finance videos because our business, it's not that big by the way, has allowed us the freedom to prepare financially, and we thankfully had a lot of really good mentors and talked to a lot of experts in their field that have told us you have to prepare this way, you have to you this is the best way for you to retire, these are some strategies that you can use. And because of that, now at the age of 35 years old, I can kind of like venture out and think and ask myself, what's the next endeavor? I mean, I love our business, but there are just so many things as well that I want to be able to do with the rest of my life. And I now have that freedom because we prepared early. And so the reason why I'm sharing with this with you and making this video, because I want more people to be on the second side, the second part of that, which is if you start early, you have peace of mind, you have really good family support where you can help your family because you want to, not because you have to. And third is you can have more career freedom instead of having to delay your action, becoming a building a growing burden, and like having anxiety over will you be ready when the time comes, and then experiencing some family strain because you're a forced breadwinner. So let's break two very important misconceptions that I think that holds people, a lot of Filipinos especially, back from financial planning and retirement planning. I mean, we don't even hear that word a lot. And because we think that, well, retirement planning, there's two myths. Number one is you need to be rich, right? You need to be a millionaire. You need to have millions of pesos. You have to have like generational wealth to even think about retirement. But starting early is actually the real key. You don't need massive wealth upfront, you just need consistency. And then the second myth is waiting actually makes it better. I mean, I'm only 20, I'm only 30 years old. I still have my 40s, my 50s, and it's going to be better then because I'm going to have more money. That might be true. And yes, income does progress like traditionally anyways as we earn more money, but if we actually prepare earlier, that there's actually more advantages, and delaying until you're closer to retirement can become exponentially more expensive. So, the strategy here, by the way, just to make it very clear, this isn't something that applies to everyone. And I want to say this up front because I understand, of course, that our financial situations can be very different from one another. But this strategy is for you if you're already investing. And so if you're watching this video and you are thinking to yourself, okay, I'm not making enough yet, my challenge to you first is to try to make more money first. And I've made a lot of videos about that. You can check them out. I'll probably add some links in the bio or the description rather. If you think that that could be helpful, you can watch those videos. If you already have about 500,000 pesos that you are ready to invest, you're already ahead of the curve. And I understand, of course, that not all Filipinos have that. But a lot of the examples that I'm going to share in this video can really help you if you have this amount of money. And ideally, if you are below 40 years old. And if you're not at that level yet, then you can do it. I mean, I believe that it's possible, and it's something that you should aspire towards. But if you're not starting from zero, which means that you can really coast FI, which I'll explain in a little bit, then it can really become a very powerful tool if you use it wisely. And so, what is Coast FI? I mentioned that term, and let me explain that. Coast FI, or Coast Financial Independence, it's a strategy where you invest early enough that your portfolio can actually grow on its own to fund your retirement. So once you reach your coast number, meaning the amount of money that you have invested at an early age, and then you can just literally coast towards retirement. And so time and compounding will do the work for you. So those two ideas there, time and compounding, are very important principles that apply here. So compounding, let's start with compounding because this is a principle that not a lot of us Filipinos are taught when we are in school. And I think that this should be something that we should learn early on, actually. And so compounding essentially is this concept where if your money grows by a certain amount every single year, no matter how small, can actually become a bigger figure later on. But that's the concept. So let's say, for example, you have a compounding growth of about 7% in your investments. 7% might not seem like a whole lot. But if you allow that to compound over time, your investment can actually double within 10 years if it just compounds 7% every single year. And so that's the power of compounding interest, is this exponential growth that happens. So that only happens when you have the second principle, which is the one on the left circle, right? Which is time. Because the more time that you have to compound, the more that your money will grow. And that's the reason why Coast financial independence and preparing as early as possible is such a powerful concept. And I want to share with you two examples, right? To help you understand and to visualize just how powerful it can be if you start early. So let's take a look at two scenarios. The first one is if you start at 55 years old, which is what a lot of Filipinos say. I'll probably prepare in my 50s because in your 30s, your 40s, you're probably preparing for a lot of expenses as well. You have kids, you have a house that you need to purchase to prepare for, that's where you're going to live in the future. And all of those things are important. Again, don't get me wrong. But if you wiggle around your money again, and we'll show it a little bit, and you can just set aside 500,000 pesos, you'll see later on just how powerful that is. But let's start first with the the other scenario, whereas you start a bit later, 55 years old. Let's say, for example, you start with 1 million pesos, which is, again, it's a lot of money. But we think again that we have all the time. We have until 55. If you're 25 years old right now, you have 30 years to put together 1 million pesos, which is, again, that's still a really good strategy, by the way. But the problem here is that you only have 10 years to compound. And let's say, for example, that you have a 10% annual return, which is quite high, I understand, because in the Philippines, we have investments mostly that are around 6 to 7%. But there are also other global investments that do 10% or even better. Like the S&P 500, for example, can definitely reach that. But the reason why we don't do that, again, is because we don't have enough time. And so you need the time, if you have a volatile investment, to just let that grow over a longer period of time. Which is, again, I'll get to that in a short while. But let's say, for example, you have 10 years at a 10% annual return. That investment, showing that graph right there, will actually allow you to grow to about 2.5 million. And 2.5 million sounds like a really good, bang for your buck, right? I mean, it's not that bad, you know. But think of it this way. I mean, you put in so much work, and you work hard, and you save 1 million pesos, and then you end up with 2.5 million pesos. And according to the 4% rule, which means that 4% of that is what you can withdraw every single year, so that your money doesn't run out, essentially. So if you do that, you're gonna have about two like about 100,000 pesos, if 100,000 pesos every single year, in passive income. And if you divide that up by 12 months, then you're going to make about 8,300 pesos per month. So again, there's a lot of math there. But just to kind of like show you essentially that these are the numbers that you need to run. So you make, again, you save and you invest 1 million pesos at the age of 55 years old. You have 10 years of investment time, and you have that, the time to compound. It grows to 2.5 million. You make another 1.5, which is amazing. Sounds great on paper, right? And it is great on paper. But then you only make at 8,300 pesos per month. Let's say, for example, that you have SSS that gives you about 15,000. Then you're probably going to retire with about 23,300 pesos per month, which isn't a lot of money, because by the time that you retire 10 years from now, inflation, prices are going to go up, and your costs are also going to go up because you're going to need medical, you're going to have a lot more medical expenses. You're probably going to want to travel, which you probably can't do with 20 plus thousand per month. And so that's what happens if you start at 55 years old. What happens if you start earlier? And this is where it gets very interesting. Let's say, for instance, that you start at 35 years old and you only start with 500,000 pesos. So earlier we looked at starting with a million. Now let's just say you're going to start with 500. That's what I mentioned earlier, that if you have 500,000 pesos at the age of about 35 to 40, this is what your investment will look like. Start with 500,000 pesos. By the way, just to be very clear, okay, I'm not a financial advisor. These are all just projections. I'm not making any guarantees. Don't get mad at me if you don't get those returns. These are just like projections to show you what could happen if all things go well. But this is the strategy that a lot of people in the U.S., Singapore, and a lot of first world countries use to have a really strong retirement rate. And let me make a very important comment here. In the Philippines, our retirement rate is abysmal. Like, I think it's about single digit percentage. If not, it's I think it's about, yeah, I'm not single. In the Philippines, we have about 20% of people say that they're not ready for retirement. So that means that only about 20% of people are able to retire. And a lot of that actually is because of GSIS, or having a business that generates income, real estate, or sometimes even generational wealth, which unfortunately not all of us have that opportunity. But in countries like Singapore, in the United States, they have 60, 70% retirement, like full retirement rate. So what are they doing that we're not doing? And we think that it's because they have higher income. Yes, that's true, but they also have higher expenses. So if you balance it out, actually, yes, they have more money for retirement, but it's just enough to cover their expenses. So like in the US, for example, you'd probably need anywhere between 60 to $70,000 per year to retire comfortably, which is like what, 4.5 million pesos. That's a lot of money that you need to build up over time. And you're making 5,000, probably $7,000 a month. So you're having to save more to prepare more in the future. But in the Philippines, you don't need 3.5, 4 million pesos per year to retire comfortably. You probably need like a very small fraction of that. And so what I'm trying to say here essentially is that it's not just about having more money, but it's about having the right system. And this is one of the right systems that you want to learn. So going back to this computation. So you start with 500,000 pesos, but now you have 30 years to compound at a 10% annual return rate. 30 years versus 10 years. And see how big of a difference. Even if you have half of the investment money, it grows to 8.7 million pesos with the 10% return rate. So if you do the math again on the 4% rule, you're going to make about 29,000 pesos per month passively from that investment. So now you have that ability now to create income without having to work anymore, and it can just do so much wonders for you. So going back to the breakdown, let's say for instance you have the 15,000 pesos of SSS money, and then you have 29,000 pesos in investments. That will bring you to about close to like 44,000 pesos a month, which sounds like it could do more for you in your later years. You won't have to be so much of a burden anymore to your children because now you have money to take care of yourself. But looking at this, right? I mean, just 500,000 pesos, but starting like 30 years, not 10 years, it gives you a return that's 3.5x higher, even if you're investing half. That's the power of time and compounding. And so that's the principle that I believe a lot more Filipinos need to learn, the power of starting earlier. And some final thoughts here, right? Like, what does this mean for us? What's the takeaway? The first thing is to really start early because time is your greatest asset, not money. Because you could have an investment that's lower than you would have when you're in your 50s, but it can grow to way, way, way more just because you allowed it to compound over a longer period of time. Number two is to trust compounding because it's been decades. Man, sometimes people ask me, it's like, is this guaranteed? It's not guaranteed, but a lot of people over the last 100 years have used this same system, which were not being taught in the Philippines. Blows my mind, but people in the US, UK, Australia, even like not non first world countries where people are being taught financial literacy. They grow their investments, they experience financial independence with this simple idea of compounding, letting the mathematics work for you. So, letting your money and your time work for you, not the other way around. And then, third is highly important. The reason why this is such a compelling topic for me, it's not because of the money, but it's because of what the money allows you to have, which is peace. And to secure your finances so that you can secure your family's future, not just when you are 65 years old, mind you, but even as early as now. Because imagine this, if you prepare for retirement and you can hit coast financial independence at the age of 35, 40 years old, by the time that your kids are going off to college, 45 years old, 50 years old, if you started like average in your, having kids, then imagine how much like, peace that will give you, knowing that I can send my kids to the school that they want without having to worry about touching my nest egg, because I've already prepared that and it's already growing, compounding on its own. Once again, let me be very clear. I mean, this strategy works if you have some sort of capital, ideally around, like, again, 500,000 pesos if you want this kind of income. Obviously, you'll need more if you want more passive income. Like for us, for example, we shot for a number like 4 or 5 times this. And we're 35 years old now and we've already hit that number. Thankfully, by the guidance of mentors and really just being ready for the opportunities in our business. But even when our business grew, we did not upgrade our lifestyle. We enjoyed from time to time. We traveled 3 to 4 times a year outside of the country and all of that. But I didn't buy a Rolex, at least not yet. That's coming soon. But I wanted to make sure this happened first, because we think that we want nice stuff to enjoy our money now. But what will actually make us enjoy our money now is if we buy ourselves peace of mind. And if we gain peace, it can do so much wonders for us. So hopefully this video was helpful for you. Hopefully the numbers make sense. If you have any questions, if you want any clarifications, you know where the comment section is. And I'll probably leave some contact details if you want to reach out. I want to make this also very clear as well, that I am going to start coaching more people in this space. So I honestly don't know what that looks like. But if you want to have a clear path to financial freedom and to financial independence, my inbox is open. We could probably exchange emails. I'll put my email address somewhere here in the description. You can send me your questions and I'll be more than happy to asynchronously answer those questions. And if you want more deeper breakdowns into your specific context, because obviously all of us, we have different contexts, we have different financial standings, and there's obviously a lot of like customizing that has to happen there. I could lead you to the mentors that helped me. I can lead you to the professionals that helped us to invest our money in places where it will grow enough for us to reach coast financial independence. But again, the goal, I mean, what I'm basically saying here is that just reach out. And if you have any questions, especially if you're a family or a friend, you already know me and you're watching this video because I shared it somewhere, you saw it, just reach out or talk to my wife because she's more approachable. But I'm doing this more and more, and I hope to do this more and more because I really want to see more Filipinos have financial independence. Financial independence in the sense where you can have enough income so that you can live the life that you want to live without having to think about, is this going to make sense for us financially? Is this going to stress us out? Can I still put food on the table if I chase this dream or if I pursue this kind of path forward? That is all possible if we have financial independence. So here's to more Filipinos experiencing financial independence, and here's to finally building financial literacy in the Philippines so we can have a better country and have a better future together. Thank you so much, and I hope this video helped, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.